Hi, this is Kyle from Nerds of Babylon, and you're listening to the Southsiders Studios podcasting system. For more great podcast programming, visit southsiderstudios.com or search Southsiders Studios on iTunes.
Psst, hey, you got Stitcher? Well, we're on it, so get it! Southsiders Studios now on Stitcher. Stitcher is an award-winning provider of news and talk radio for your mobile phone. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio.
Cinesmack contains spoilers of the spoiling type. If you don't want your spoilers spoiled, please turn back now. Otherwise, enjoy the show!
Hello, Cinesmackers, and welcome back to Cinesmack. We have a great bout lined up for you tonight. Joining me, as always, are my favorite group of filmmakers. We'll start with Gabe Rowald.
Would you say I have a plethora of piñatas?
That means you have too much.
Ah.
Tom Haggis.
I'm very happy to be here. Gabe took my joke.
Oh, did I? Sorry,
Not
Tom.
really. No, I'm okay.
Sam Twomey.
So like the wind.
Nice. And our special guest, man of a plethora of films and TV shows and a digital media producer in Des Moines, Shawn Fitzgerald.
Hello, and I can't believe everyone's using plethora. Do you really know what plethora means?
It means too much, doesn't it?
Good. I'd hate to think you were using plethora without knowing what it meant.
Actually, the only reason I know that is because I read it on IMDb before we started.
Fantastic.
Welcome, everybody. How was your months? That's good. Thanks for joining us, Shawn.
You bet. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, I hope you had a good time watching the films.
Yeah.
Some of our special guests kind of get stuck with some less than stellar films. I'll put it that way. And then I have to hear about it. So, you know what? Let's just go ahead and move right on to the monkey. I'll poke him, and he can go ahead and read the bout card.
Ladies and gentlemen, Thermians and Santapokans, welcome to tonight's main event. In the first corner, released in 1999, directed by Dean Parasol, starring Tim Allen, Sigourney Weaver, and Alan Rickman, Galaxy Quest. In the second corner, released in 1986, directed by John Landis, starring Steve Martin, Chevy Chase, and Martin Short, the Three Amigos. Tonight, it's the clueless versus the discombobulated as three comedy legends take on a fantastic crew of misfits.
All right, well, there you go. Let's go ahead and move on to the first round, which is writing. And we'll send it over to you, Gabe.
Okay, writing. You know, it's always kind of interesting to talk about writing on movies like this, kind of what you would kind of consider lighthearted comedy type movies. You don't think of it as, you know, very taxing writing. For some reason, when you think of writing, you think of something that's going to be really profound or really dramatic or really, you know, just something unusual. And so when I'm watching these movies, I don't think about that much. Mm-hmm. But I have to say that actually both of them were pretty well written. Actually, they both kind of were making references to other movies, to other movie genres, and that kind of thing. And they were both entertaining. The characters were well developed. I thought they were both pretty well written. But in the end, I think that I have to say that I feel like Three Amigos was maybe it was better in my mind because it had so many memorable lines. It had so many memorable moments. And I wonder sometimes, when you've got a cast like that, it's always hard to say, okay, what is writing and what is ad-libbing? What is acting?
Right.
How much of this was brought on the page and how much of this was brought just in the moment. And with those three main actors in Three Amigos, it's like, wow, those guys could probably just they could just turn on the camera and there's your movie,
Right.
But I do feel like it was pretty well written, and I was really surprised. I didn't realize this until I just watched it again recently, that it was actually written by Steve Martin. Mm-hmm. And he's one talented son of a bitch. That guy can do everything. He's funny. He's musically talented. I don't know what can this guy not do. But I think because Three Amigos has so many memorable lines to it, the whole plethora of piñatas, and the part. This is where it gets fuzzy, the ad-libbing part. But one of my favorite parts is where Steve Martin is on the roof trying to get their attention. Oh. And he's doing all the different bird calls. And I don't know if you write that or if you just ad-lib that, but it was hilarious. And Sam's quote, so like the wind. There's just so much of it that is memorable as far from a writing standpoint. So I think both were really actually very well written, but because it's more memorable, I'm going to give my vote to Three Amigos.
All right. Thank you, Gabe. Tom, you're up.
Well, I felt that the writing was very serviceable. I can't do this for the whole thing.
Thank God.
Yeah, thank goodness.
Oh, my God. I owe my wife $10, so... yeah, so the writing for both of them was very serviceable. It was a lot of, it's tough. It's tough writing comedy because it's really hard to tell, what's you contribute to the actors, especially a movie like Three Amigos when you have three comic geniuses. Steve Martin, one of them was credited with writing it. So it's hard to decide what was writing and what was kind of improvised on set. I really liked Three Amigos, and I remember it real fondly from my childhood. I saw it in the theater when it first came out when I was 10. But there's something about Galaxy Quest. I was watching it today, and I'm not a Trekkie. Is it Trekkie or Trekker? Which one's the offensive one?
Trekkie.
Trekkie is offensive? Okay, so I'm not a Trekkie or anything like that. I never really got into this whole Star Trek thing, but for some reason I really love this movie, and I get a lot of the in jokes and the stuff that's going on in there, and I thought it was really, really entertaining. It doesn't surprise me that it's a movie that came out in 1999, which, if we've talked about before on this show, was such a banner year for film, and the Galaxy Quest was part of that. I mean, it really is just a really, really great movie that walks that delicate line between homage and kind of needling the fans at the same time. Mm-hmm. And I think it was just a stroke of genius that in the end, it's the fans that wind up saving the universe. And, any fan that was sitting there crossing their arms like, they're making fun of us. I can't believe no one realizes they're making fun of us. Well, they get credit in the end for saving the human race, which is what they wanted all along anyway. But, and I love Three Amigos, and I just felt like Three Amigos really is, looking back on it now at 35, it's really a string of really, really funny bits. But as far as the story collectively goes, it didn't hold together as well for me now as it did. And I loved all of the little bits, every single one of them. I repeat them, to this day. The kids get ready for bed, and I was like, take the Amigos' clothes. And, it's part of my daily life with jokes from Three Amigos. But when I look at the script as a story as a whole, I'd have to give it to Galaxy Quest for that very thing. I feel if I had watched Galaxy Quest when I was 10 years old, those lines would be just as ingrained in me as the Three Amigos lines, particularly the one about, getting my boys up here with a can of WD-40 to work that out. I thought that was really great. And so let's get going because I want to talk about acting.
All right. Sam, you're up.
Well, I enjoyed both these films immensely. It was really nice to just rediscover them in a different way. They are both very similar, as Gabe talked about. In a lot of ways, go back to Seven Samurai by Kurosawa, borrowing on those same themes. And I never really put that together before watching them this time, of how very similar stories there are about the different kind of the outcast band, and then this saving a galaxy or a village or whatever it may be. I think the one thing that threw me when looking at the writing is, who's credited on the Three Amigos. Yes, Steve Martin, which I totally would have expected. And then Lorne Michaels, who we'll talk about later in producing. And then our good old pal, Randy Newman. I don't know if this is his only screenwriting credit, but it's just very strange to think. I saw that. I was like, that Randy Newman? So I agree with Tom as well that it is a bunch of bits, and in a way that's kind of, I think, how Lorne Michaels as a producer was working, and also working on the writing, and a lot of these people had worked with him before. You got these top-notch comedians, and maybe there's a lot of people that didn't get writing credit on this, because I think they just threw a lot of really funny people in the room. They had an idea where to go, and they kind of took it to their own style of their comedy. Everyone from John Lovitz, we'll talk about in acting, and lots of those different stars that are peppered in there. So I think overall it was a tough call, but even though I love the lines and everything from Three Amigos, and they're definitely part of my daily life and they make me smile, but the overall, I think, script angle and the actual writing of it would probably go to Galaxy Quest, because in addition to that basic story, they incorporated a modern kind of phenomenon of people that follow these types of shows, but in a broad enough way that you don't have to be into these types of shows to really enjoy this movie or even know where it's coming from. Because even if you don't like that kind of TV series, you have an idea of what they're talking about, and there's a lot more meat there, I think. And I'm gonna have to give my vote to Galaxy Quest.
All right, thank you, Sam. Shawn.
Well, a lot of things that people have already said, I'm going to kind of reiterate, because I think when it comes down to it, I remember seeing the Three Amigos when I was much younger, and I was really looking forward to getting back into this and seeing that, because when I was a kid, I loved the movie. I loved Steve Martin, so I was really looking forward to it. Hadn't seen Galaxy Quest, but I think as I've gotten older, I felt like what I was seeing in the Three Amigos was kind of every time I see Steve Martin or Chevy Chase or Martin Short, it's the same thing over and over again. And I couldn't get beyond that. And I think that there's moments in the Three Amigos that was really entertaining, and some of the jokes worked on some levels, and sometimes they just felt like it was the same joke I've heard over and over again in different movies. So it fell apart for me. And seeing Lorne Michaels' name on there, as soon as I saw that when it came up, I'm like, please don't let this be like Saturday Night Live, where it's all these broken skits or all these skits that have been turned into movies and they just flounder. And that's kind of where I felt like it was. It was very fractured. And I would agree with what has also been said about Galaxy Quest, that I felt that the writing flowed much better all the way through. And the thing that I really liked about Galaxy Quest is that it really worked on a lot of different levels. So if you're a sci-fi Star Trek fan, you're going to understand a lot more of the kind of in-jokes that are there. But if you don't watch those shows or don't care for them, I think that there's still a really nice kind of tongue-in-cheek sort of message that you get. And I think, too, that I felt all the characters, well, and I know this starts getting into some of the acting, but I felt like all the characters had something to contribute through their lines, and it wasn't like three big stars that were just carrying it, which I know that was the draw when I was younger. But right. I just think because of the nature of Galaxy Quest being a little more even, all the way through, and I felt like every scene and everything was just driving towards the same message. I'm going to have to go with Galaxy Quest on that.
All right. Thank you, Shawn. A little fun fact for you fellas. The Buttercup song, Amanda and I were actually thinking about doing that at our wedding reception and doing the whole the dancing and everything. I told her one dance is enough for me to remember, so let's just keep it at that. So it almost happened. It almost. Well, we spoke about plethora, and here's the little tidbit that I read earlier. At one point, El Guapo harasses Jefe about the meaning of the word plethora in relation to how many piñatas he had. In reality, plethora is a commonly misused word meaning too much of something rather than simply a lot of something. So instead of telling El Guapo that he had enough piñatas, Jefe actually told him that he had too many piñatas. And according to writer David Howard on Galaxy Quest, the continuous, melodic yet monotone voice of Thermian Commander Mathesar was an original idea that Enrico, I'm going to butcher his name, Colantoni, there you go, brought to the character. Everyone on the set loved it so much they kept it in the shoot. So there you go. Let's go ahead and move on to our second round, which is acting. And we will start with Tom.
Yay! All right, so let's see. Alan Rickman was in one of these movies, right?
Yes.
Yes. Let's see. I'm sorry, I'm on IMDb. Galaxy Quest. So my vote's going to go to Galaxy Quest. With Alan Rickman. I mean, seriously, can you imagine any movie that Alan Rickman is in? He's not going to win acting. And then Tony Shalhoub also was really, really great. Tim Allen and Sigourney Weaver, they were both pretty good, but I think we're going to find ourselves kind of talking about the supporting characters. I think we're probably going to be talking about the supporting characters in Galaxy Quest versus the main characters in Three Amigos. And you get kind of Chevy Chase playing the Chevy Chase character and Steve Martin playing the Steve Martin character and Martin Short, blah, 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 blah. But with the Galaxy Quest, the trio of Tony Shalhoub and Alan Rickman and Sam Rockwell, all three of them, those three together, just completely sold the movie. And they are three of our best actors we have out there anyway. And to see the three of them in the supporting roles of this movie, it was such a delight. And in a way, we're kind of seeing Alan Rickman almost kind of play himself as the over-serious actor. And I think it's so great to see when you get to see a serious actor take on comedy and show everyone it's not easy.
Right.
Okay, comedy is hard, right, and it's a challenge for these dramatic actors. And he was such a great sport to go in and do it. And so I'm going to give my vote to Galaxy Quest for that very reason. Three Amigos, as far as the supporting cast, they were in the first 5 minutes, the guys that I really, really like, which is, Phil Hartman, John Lovitz, and Fat Tony from The Simpsons. So
Andy Garcia. From now on, you're Fat Tony.
Oh my God! Hang on just a second. If I don't look up what's his name, quick.
Andy Garcia.
Joe Mantegna.
Oh, Joe Mantegna. Sorry,
Joe Mantegna. Okay,
I was totally way off.
I don't want him to. I don't want to wake up with a horse in my bed tomorrow. So, all right, give my vote to Galaxy Quest. Thanks.
Well, yeah, Andy Garcia. Sam, go ahead. Don't listen to me. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Oh, acting, it's tough. I think Tom had a lot of great points. All of the characters in Three Amigos, they were playing their kind of stock roles that they had, because that's what the audience wanted to see. They wanted to see Chevy Chase do his shtick and Steve Martin and Martin Short. And they did it well. I mean, the fact that it's as memorable as it is to so many people is testament to that. But in Galaxy Quest, I think you're dealing with a totally different animal. I mean, you've got a great main cast, and then a very intriguing and compelling secondary cast that is just as good, as not better, as the leads in Three Amigos, even given their wonderful, wonderful careers. But there's more meat here, again, in Galaxy Quest. Totally on the Alan Rickman bandwagon. Love the performance. Sigourney Weaver, she looks really hot, but I don't think it's her best performance. really liked Tim Allen. Like, kind of was on the fence about Tim Allen for a long time, but I liked just everything he brought to it. You could see that he worked through different levels of, being the down and out captain to being excited in the strange new world and actually becoming that leader from within very subtly.
Right.
I'm going to have to go Galaxy Quest.
All right. Thank you, Sam. Shawn.
Okay, so for acting, basically I'm going to go with Galaxy Quest, and I'll tell you why. I think that every one of the actors in Galaxy Quest added something to the story. They all had kind of their own unique twist to their characters. Mm-hmm. Some I felt were kind of mocking their own legacy of movies, kind of playing against who they really are and kind of making a little fun of it. But I just think it was a lot more subtle. And I guess when it comes to acting, I like more of the subtlety that I think the Three Amigos, it was just so over the top. It was so caricatured that it just didn't really resonate with me at all. So, but I did really like Sam Rockwell, and I really liked Enrico Colantani's bit. I think that if they pulled everyone else out besides those two, I think I would still watch it. So anyway, my vote's on Galaxy Quest.
All right. Thank you. This was actually Justin Long's first film. This was his film debut. So,
and I think Rainn Wilson also.
Yes. Yeah. I thought that was Dwight. All right, Gabe, bring us home.
Yeah. Well, yeah. This one, the acting category is interesting. Again, I feel like they were both were fairly well acted, actually. And when we were talking about writing, I was talking about how in Three Amigos, how much of it is actually writing and how much of it is ad lib, how much of it is actually the acting, how much do those actors bring to that screenplay, to those characters, to that movie. And and now today we can sit here and look back and say, oh, that's the whole Steve Martin shtick, that's the whole Chevy Chase shtick, because we're used to seeing it. But back then, I'm not sure it was really that ingrained yet. And so I think if we take it from the time context, it was probably a little bit fresher than it is now. And because we ask ourselves, how much of this was actually writing and how much of it was acting, I think we have to give the actors more credit for bringing something to those characters, and just the fact that they probably could have ad-libbed a lot of that says a lot. So I give the actors in Three Amigos a lot of credit for making for really making that movie. I mean, I enjoyed watching all of them. Sure, I've seen it before, but I still enjoy it. Now, Galaxy Quest. I do believe this is the first time that I've seen Galaxy Quest, and I have to admit that I was impressed. I really enjoyed it a lot. And as far as acting goes, I thought Tim Allen really stepped out of character, so to speak. He stepped out of himself and actually kind of acted. And I was like, wow, he's actually not too bad. He's not doing his shtick in this. And I thought he was very believable, and I thought he did a great job. And then, Tom mentioned supporting cast. Mm-hmm. My God, how many people in the supporting cast of that do we now think of as stars in their own right? We're talking about Justin Long and Rainn Wilson, and even the girl who played one of the aliens. What's her name? Missy Pyle. Yeah, I mean, I've seen her in other stuff before. There's so many of these people who really filled out the cast and did a superb job, who are now, like I said, in their own right, stars themselves. Mm-hmm. Sam Rockwell, he's excellent. I love Sam Fantastic. Rockwell. He's awesome. He's great in this movie. He's great in just about everything I've seen him in. So it's really hard to vote against Galaxy Quest. It's starting to feel like it's going to be a landslide on the Galaxy Quest side. But in this category, as much as I love Steve Martin and admire his talent, as much as I enjoy Chevy Chase's smart-ass shtick, as much as I feel like they brought to that movie, the cast for Galaxy Quest was just incredible. So my vote has to go to that one as well.
All right. Thank you, Gabe. I've got a few little tidbits here for you. Originally, Three Amigos was supposed to star Steve Martin, Dan Aykroyd, and John Belushi. Martin mentioned it in a Playboy interview published January 1980, referring to the movie as The Three Caballeros.
Mm-hmm.
So,
that was like how many years before it actually came out?
It came out
like
in 86.
6 years.
Yep, 6 years.
Yeah.
In Galaxy Quest, the film script originally contained a mention of Alexander Dane, Alan Rickman's character, another reason to like Rickman because he gets into his character, having been knighted by Queen Elizabeth II. Rickman asked that this be changed because he believed it was inconsistent with the character, and all the mentions of the knighting were removed. However, the character is still listed in the credits as Sir Alexander Dane. Sigourney Weaver said that whenever she put on the blonde wig to become Gwen, I could feel my IQ drop perceptuously. And all I have to say is, no, you just became tolerable in the looks department.
It was a wig, huh?
Yeah. Just real quick, I want to ask you guys a question. I know I'm going to spring it on you. Everything's being remade nowadays. We know it. Dogs know it. Who would you cast now as the Three Amigos? Because you know there's probably someone in Hollywood that's like, oh, we should remake Three Amigos. You guys have any input on that?
Good question.
Are you giving them a bad idea, Mike? Someone's got to run with this.
Yeah, someone's going to go, yeah, that's not a good idea. There are certain movies, I think Three Amigos, because of the way we talk about it and the way that we, even though it's not doing well in this particular competition, I think it holds a kind of a a warm place in our hearts. We talk about referring to it and thinking about it repeatedly after all this time. Mm-hmm. So I would say it's kind of a classic at this point. And man, I repeat, do not try to remake a classic. Don't do it. Don't.
Oh my God, this is such bullshit.
What?
Who would you cast, Tom?
Well, I'm podcasting from a giant pile of money, and I would, as I have in the past, remake it with the cast of Twilight.
Yeah.
Well, it'd probably be Hunger Games now because that's a new thing.
Yeah.
Maybe they're busy shooting the sequels, so they're not.
Actually,
I would say Harry Potter, but that's like two generations back.
Jennifer Lawrence is a quality actress. Kristen Stewart, I think, is something else.
How did we get here? I
would say Danny DeVito, Marilyn Manson, and Larry the Cable Guy.
Oh my God!
It's got to be Jim Carrey.
Will Ferrell.
Ferrell could be fun. Oh yeah, he'd be actually pretty good.
Actually, Will Ferrell did remake it. It comes out in a couple weeks, doesn't it?
Yeah. I want to see that. That film looks good.
It does look good. It looks very funny, very original.
Shawn, you have any input?
What did he remake?
It's hard to think of three people that would replace those. But for some reason, as soon as you asked that, I was seeing Vince Vaughn in the role of Chevy Chase, which I know he might be a little bit beyond, but he's kind of played in my mind, and I think that he could just be kind of that arrogant guy that I don't know. I just kind of thought of Vince Vaughn first for some strange reason.
Well, that's kind of his shtick.
Yeah.
That would be kind of his role.
So Jim Carrey, Will Ferrell, and Vince Vaughn.
There you go. Perfect.
Or how about go all animation? Maybe you could do like Gollum and Tintin, and I don't know who the third would be, but just really go against the grain there. That might be kind of interesting.
Or you could be like Battleship and just put like robots for no reason that come out of nowhere.
Can we work in Caesar from Rise of the Planet of the Apes? I mean, he's pretty popular right now.
Caesar, yeah.
Betty White, she's hot now.
Yeah.
There needs to be a fourth female amigo.
That would be funny, Betty White.
The Three Amigos and un chica. That's it. $1 million.
$1 million. All right. Well,
why isn't it Tres Amigos?
What's that?
Anyway, never mind. Why is it Three Amigos, not Tres Amigos?
Even the grammar on it is the punctuation is even Spanish. You got the number
Right.
3.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, no one would go see Trace Amigos. I mean, come on.
Sounds like a very gay movie. Very, very gay movie. Not that that's bad.
Not that that's wrong or anything.
I've seen Trace Amigos. It's great.
All right, let's move on to our third round, which is directing. And we'll send it over to Sam.
Well, directing is an interesting category. Lots of good work on Galaxy Quest. I like John Landis as a director, and in a lot of ways, dealing with a producer that's Lorne Michaels, who's going to have a heavy hand in the decisions and the looks. At least that's what I'm assuming. To keep those three big stars, especially Steve Martin and Chevy Chase, balanced. And actually, I think he brings out some very good performances of them. I've always liked early Chevy Chase stuff. His later career, I haven't been as much of a fan of. But, with all the films he made, there's some of them where he was just kind of miss. But I think he really used his stars very well. And the same thing could be argued for Galaxy Quest. In some ways, the complexity of the elements, the effects, and other things that director was dealing with, have to be factored in, because not only did he, direct a very large cast of stars that went on to be very big, he was able to incorporate that with stunning effects for the time, and not let the effects overshadow the story, but pepper the story with reality, with believability. I was leaning toward the Three Amigos, but as I'm talking, all of those elements in Galaxy Quest, and in some ways, some very nuanced performances. I think John Landis was able to shoot, some really funny people and put together a film on a modest budget, that, well, not necessarily modest, but, not a huge budget, and make a really good film. But the director of Galaxy Quest really took the reins, in my opinion, and utilized all of the elements, all of the tools of filmmaking to bring home a story that appeals to a very wide audience. And I think I'm going to go with Galaxy Quest.
All right. Thank you, Sam. Shawn.
John Landis, if we took all of his movies before the Three Amigos in '86 and looked at them, you had Spies Like Us, which I think was probably the better Chevy Chase of the two.
Yes.
And and of course I remember I really got into John Landis during the Twilight Zone movie. I know there was a mishap there which made that famous, but I really liked his the way he handled it, and then there was also that American Werewolf in London, and I think he was really unique, and brought could tell a really great story. But I kind of feel like with the Three Amigos, he started kind of going downhill for some reason. Maybe it's we've seen everything that he did, and he was just repeating it over and over again. And I think that in this movie here, he had three big actors, and basically he just kind of had to keep it together and let them kind of do their stuff. Because the stars are probably why everyone went to see the show. They wanted to see that. So I think on one hand, he probably wasn't directing as much as trying to keep everything together and just let them do their own stuff. But on the other hand, with Galaxy Quest, I feel like, here the actors weren't the stars necessarily. It was the story. It was the kind of the bashing of the Star Trek fans. It's also the redemption of all these washed up adults coming to terms with who they are. And I think that requires a little more subtlety, because I think it'd be easy for Galaxy Quest just to go way off the deep end and just be, a crazy farce and have everyone just overacted and the whole thing would be miserable. Mm-hmm. But I really think that there was a lot of subtlety in this, and I think that certain people were allowed to kind of go over the top when it was appropriate. but everything was just very subtle. And I can only credit that to the director. I know the actors probably bring some of that to it, but I think that, and I think, is it Dean Pariseau or Parasot? I think Pariseau, I would guess. I just think that his job was to be a lot more subtle, and also to try to mimic what fans really love. So he had to kind of walk a very fine line, and I just felt like it required a little more work from a director. So I just, for those reasons, I would probably again say Galaxy Quest.
All right. Thank you, Shawn. We'll head on over to Gabe.
Yeah, when it comes to John Landis, it's kind of like the acting thing. It's hard not to look at it and look at his complete resume and make a decision based on that, as opposed to just making a decision based solely on this particular movie, which is the one we watched, which is the one we're critiquing right now. Because John Landis has got some great stuff under his belt. I mean, you can't go wrong with Animal House, Blues Brothers, Spies Like Us, which is fun, Coming to America. You really can't go wrong. I mean, it's like, well, yeah. I mean, if you're comparing resumes, yeah, John Landis wins. No question. And I think it says something for a director to be able to know that he's got a certain type of talent and be able to step back from that and let that talent kind of run on its own. And I think that's what he was up against,
right?
With Three Amigos. He had a huge amount of comedic talent there that was just probably running wild, just going crazy. And he had to know to step back. And I think that takes a certain amount of skill as well, to know when it's time to just kind of step back and let it happen, as opposed to like trying to control everything. So I give him a lot of credit for doing that and still being able to make a coherent, enjoyable movie. Although we did talk about how, and I do agree that the movie does seem kind of like a bunch of skits kind of stuck together. Like, oh, here's a little bit that's kind of funny, let's put that in there, and here's another bit, and we'll try to loosely string them together with somewhat of a story. And I do agree that it does feel like that sometimes. But he did a really great job, I think, of just kind of stepping back and letting the talent do their thing. Galaxy Quest, the resume of the director maybe isn't quite as stellar, but he did do a great job, and he did have what I feel like were a lot of new tools available to him at the time. One of the things that I thought was really nice about Galaxy Quest was the special effects, and I think we're supposed to talk about that later. But as a tool for that director, I thought he utilized that stuff appropriately. He had all these cool toys to work with, but he didn't overdo it.
Right.
He used them in service of the storytelling. Hey, we can do all this cool stuff now, but I'm not gonna overdo it. I'm gonna kind of rein it in a little bit. And he too, just like John Landis, kind of stepped back from what was in front of him and kind of, didn't overdo it. Didn't try to. I guess. Well, I take that back. He did seem a little bit more in control of that, because that could have gotten out of hand. It's like, oh, hey, look, we can do all these cool special effects. We can, and we're just going to make it about that. He could have gone all George Lucas on us and just did special effects to do special effects. And he did have a great cast, and I thought he handled them well. There were some pretty big names in there at the time, and they all kind of stayed within themselves and kind of were all working toward telling the story the best they could. And I think in the end, that's what a director does, is tell a story to the best of their ability. And I think as much as I really adore Three Amigos, it's this whole childhood kind of thing. As much as I love Three Amigos, I really do think that Galaxy Quest was really well directed, really well put together, and so my vote goes to Galaxy Quest.
All right, thank you, Gabe. Tom,
I'm here. Sorry, I had me turned down. Time and again, and the Galaxy Quest, I think, is something I love. I love pulling it up as an example that a movie will come out and a concept will come out or a trailer will come out and people are going to make snap judgments about it. And I think every one of us, when we first saw Galaxy Quest, the idea behind it or the trailer or somebody told us about it, we kind of took a step back and was like, ugh. Even Star Trek fans went, they were a little off put about it. Mm-hmm. But that movie has overcome all of that, and that does not happen very often. That a movie is able to be so good that it's able to get past those first perceptions. Now, when everybody first heard about Three Amigos, it was like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see this movie. I don't even see the trailer. These three guys are in a movie together. Oh, these guys are the greatest. And then John Landis directing this is going to be so good. I can't wait to see it. Which is how I talked when I was 10. And so...
Thank you.
And for that, I'm going to credit the director, because once you get in there and you start watching the movie itself, there was a lot put on Dean Parisot to deliver a movie that, again, balances that line between homage and needling and is a good story and is entertaining with good line deliveries and decent direction. And he did it with a movie that's so easily could have gone off the rails. It so easily could have been considered a flop or a joke or, a footnote. And it has risen to the point of a cult level status. I would consider Galaxy Quest a cult film at this point because it's become that popular. Three Amigos, on the other hand, it's kind of a paint by numbers and that kind of thing. The other thing is with Three Amigos, the director of photography, Ronald Brown, God rest his soul, I don't know what the hell was going on. I was watching the DVD copy of it, and I don't know what you guys got to see, but I had the widescreen DVD copy. And throughout the entire movie, sides of the shots were cut off. You could see the edge of the lens, or there was something like just blackness on the edge, and then it would cut to the next shot, and the rest of the screen would expand out wide again. And I was just trying to figure out, did they shift the shot in post to hide like a microphone or something? And I'm like, oh, probably just that one time. And then it kept happening over and over and over again. And I'm going to put that on the director of photography for not, clearing his frame and making sure that the shot was ready to go. And I mean, maybe they shot it very quickly and that kind of thing, but it's just that thing's really not forgivable in a big name Hollywood film like that. And so with that, I'm going to give it to Galaxy Quest for directing.
All right. Thank you, Tom. Yeah, one thing that bothered me, I don't know if you guys had this problem while watching your copies, but it seemed that the screen was shaking a lot. I don't know if it was in the transfer that I had or what, but it seemed like they just set a video camera up in front of a screen and just digitized it that way. It really bothered me. I was watching it, and it would really start to bug me. And I noticed, too, Tom, what you were saying was, a lot of times on the left-hand side of the screen,
yes,
it would be really fuzzy, like it wasn't sharp and clean, and that really started to bug me a lot.
I don't know. I can't say that I noticed either of those things. I didn't notice those things in the version that I watched. I watched it online. At first, when it started playing, I was like, ugh. Right. It's standard definition. Ugh, my eyeballs hurt. But I didn't notice those particular things. I'm not saying they weren't there, but I didn't notice.
Are you a blue racist, Gabriel?
I am.
I am too. So, I watched it on DVD. It was like an old transfer from 1999, Three Amigos that I watched.
Yep, that's the one I have.
With the snap case, and boy, there's something wrong. And it wasn't anamorphic widescreen either. It was like boxed in real weird.
Yeah.
Like the black bars were actually permanently part of the picture, so it would fit nice on 4:3 screens that no one has anymore. So it just gave me a 16:9 size headache.
Right. Well, I've always liked both these movies. You know, I love some of most of John Landis's work, and Dean Parasol. Is that how we're going to say it?
That sounds good.
I think one of the reasons why I enjoy Galaxy Quest so much is this dude's done a lot that I like, and I haven't even noticed it. I was just going down the list. I loved The Tick, the TV show The Tick with Patrick Warburton. I loved that show, and he did an episode of that. He's done Justified, which I am totally in love with. He's done Monk. He did a few episodes of Monk. And he did Fun with Dick and Jane, which, I mean, I wasn't that big of a fan of, but yeah, he's done quite a bit, actually, more than I was expecting. I know he's done one of Amanda's favorite films, which is Home Fries, but we won't get into that. And Steven Spielberg actually considered directing Three Amigos, but he chose to do E.T. instead. He said in interviews his choices for the roles for the Three Amigos were Steve Martin for Lucky Day, Bill Murray for Dusty Bottoms, and Robin Williams for Ned Nederlander. And I could actually see all those. John Landis said in Empire Magazine, in an Empire Magazine piece on the film, that it was taken out of his hands in post by the studio and heavily edited. It had its first scene cut right off the bat. So I imagine there was something else going on, you know, before it just started with them singing. More like, you know, what you saw in Galaxy Quest, kind of. Reportedly, Galaxy Quest was originally developed for Harold Ramis by Disney, but Ramis dropped out before production began. So there you go. Who would you guys choose to direct it now?
Direct what? Galaxy Quest?
Let's go with Galaxy Quest, yeah. Yeah, who do you guys think would stand out with doing Galaxy Quest now?
J.J. Abrams.
It's actually said, it's funny you bring that up, in the commentary for Star Trek. Let me see if in the audio commentary for Star Trek, during the sequence where Kirk and Sulu are falling toward Vulcan without a parachute, director J.J. Abrams says, "By the way, I think we've all gone on the record as saying one of our favorite Trek films is Galaxy Quest, and this sequence is clearly an homage to Tony Shalhoub's great save in that film." So, and I didn't get to mention it, but Tony Shalhoub just totally sells Galaxy Quest for me. You guys were talking in the acting category about how, you know, it could have gone way over the top, and I love how Tony Shalhoub is just totally like, whatever, man, you know. Like, they're saying there's something wrong with the core, you know, FYI.
I thought that was right. Good job.
Yeah, I thought his performance was interesting because he was definitely playing it as if he were stoned. But I think, it was a PG-rated film. And I think they were trying to avoid actually explicitly saying that he was stoned. But, all the time I was like, he's acting like he's stoned. He's just kind of like...
And plus he's eating all the time, too.
Yeah, and he's just really kind of mellow about everything. And then, like, when he flies through space, he's like, oh, that was cool. You know? and there is one point where Sam Rockwell's character says, what, are you stoned? You know, so there's just, like, this small reference to it. But I thought it was interesting. And I do think there were some interesting other acting choices in that. Like you said, I don't remember the actor's name, but he played the main alien guy, and he chose to do that kind of monotone, that strange monotone voice. And I was thinking about that from a directing aspect, and it would not have been my first choice. Right. Had I heard that, I probably would have said, I don't know, it's not working for me. But in the end, it ended up working, it was a good choice by not only by the actor but by the director to let it happen. Right.
Yeah. That was Enrico Colantoni. There we go. I probably said it right that time. Another one of my favorites was Daryl Mitchell. He played the helmsman, Tommy. I just love his screaming throughout whenever bad things happen. It's just fantastic. So, all right, let's move on to our fourth and final round. overall. Shawn, you're first on the list.
Well, I think that every one of my votes has been for Galaxy Quest, so I don't think there's any surprise where I'm going to go. But, you know, when I was first invited, when you said, hey, you want to be a part of this and watch the shows, and here's the 2 shows that we're going to go, I'm like, oh, fantastic. 'Cause, you know, I kind of remembered the Three Amigos again when I was younger, and I remembered watching it, and I remember a lot of my friends quoting things, because I'm not one to quote lines like that, but I always appreciate when everyone else does.
Mm-hmm.
But I really went in thinking that I was going to enjoy and end up siding with Three Amigos overall. But I just think that with the fractured script, which I'm going to blame on Mr. Saturday Night Live and his means of operation, I felt like for John Landis, this was probably his kind of miss out of a whole bunch of hits. And I was just kind of disappointed when it was all over with. And with Galaxy Quest, I really went in thinking, not Tim Allen, not Sigourney Weaver. But I think that I just really loved everything about it. And I think there was all these little subtleties in there. You talked about Tony Shalhoub with the thing, which I think he was stoned. That's why he was eating. But I really liked Enrico's monotone thing. When I first heard that, that was like a big laugh for me. I like the little subtleties they have. I like when Tim Allen's in the bathroom and those kids are ripping on him. I mean, I thought that was all real, and it was making fun of the whole Star Trek thing at the same time. And I just felt like Galaxy Quest is a movie that I would watch over and over again. While with Three Amigos, if it was on, I'd probably only do it if I was forced to. So I just think, someone's got to be put in charge of the show, and I'm going to put that on the director, for making sure that it all works. And John Landis says it was pulled from him in edit, which I know how that can go sometimes. But either way, his name's on the bill, and he either goes down with the ship or docks with the ship. I just think he went down with the ship on Three Amigos. So hopefully you won't compare Three Amigos with anything else again and make me watch it again. Please don't do that. But I vote Galaxy Quest, hands down, completely through and through. It's the big winner.
All right. Thank you, Shawn. Gabe?
Yeah. Well, like I said, I think this is the first time that I remember seeing Galaxy Quest. Maybe I saw it when I was younger and I don't remember. But I'm pretty sure it's the first time that I saw it. And like Shawn, I kind of had, fond feelings toward Three Amigos because I had seen it when I was younger and enjoyed it quite a bit. And it's got all these memorable lines and moments to it. And, we really are, this has been really heavily weighted toward Galaxy Quest. And there's a part of me that wants to kind of stand up and defend Three Amigos because I enjoy it so much. But, I think in the end, well, see, it's just at times it just doesn't feel fair because they are like 13 years apart. Mm-hmm. Technology had improved greatly. So Galaxy Quest has a leg up in that respect as far as special effects and cinematography and those kinds of things. The technology had improved tremendously. But yeah, as much as I want to defend Three Amigos and as much as I enjoy it, I think in the end, Galaxy Quest is a stronger movie overall. It's just more of a complete package. It has great acting. Yeah. It has great acting, great directing, great cinematography, and it's fun, memorable, and in the end, you're happy that you saw it. So, I think for me, Galaxy Quest has to win as much as I want Three Amigos to get another vote.
All right, thank you, Gabe. Looks like Tom's up.
Yeah, going back and watching it, and I before I completely write off Three Amigos, I'm probably going to track down the Blu-ray because I do like it, and I would like to, add it to my library and see if they clean the transfer up. But quite honestly, I'm watching it, and I felt like I was watching a TV movie from 1986 in terms of the quality. And I know that they were trying to go for this dusty Western look, but there was still some elements to it that just the coloring and saturations and stuff like that just seemed a little off to me. In Galaxy Quest, I don't know if anybody noticed this, but I don't think they went into that movie planning on it being PG.
No.
Because I know there's one scene where when Gwen and Jason are running and they get to the Smasher hallway, and she says "screw this," but her lips don't say "screw this."
Yeah, I noticed that too. Yeah.
I watched it a couple of times. I'm like, "Oh, she didn't say that." So, but what the interesting things about Galaxy Quest, and I've really talked about this during the actor section of it, but what they really have are these really good actors acting like bad actors. And that can be really tough. That's another element of Galaxy Quest that easily could have gone off the rails and ruined the entire movie. But because they're good actors and they're good at acting bad, when they realize no longer that they're acting and this is actually a real thing happening, then they can use their good acting skills to act good in real situations. If anybody followed that. So that's one of the things I really like about Galaxy Quest is that kind of, twisted logic behind the whole thing. So I'm going to give my vote as much as the 10-year-old self will probably, travel into the future and, kick me in the nuts. I'm going to vote for Galaxy Quest for best overall. And I'm going to vote for the movie that George Takei said called a chillingly realistic documentary. So my vote goes for Galaxy Quest.
Oh, my.
Thank you, George.
Sam, you're up.
Well, I don't know. I was coming into this. I thought it was going to be very close, probably just because I hold the movies in high regard. Mm-hmm. But as I got through them, I realized that some of the not necessarily technicalities, but Galaxy Quest was running away with everything, and I was freaking out because love Three Amigos. Like I remembered it, I watched it. Unlike our guest tonight, I actually enjoyed the current watching, and I think in some ways because it took me to the simplicity of childhood and whatnot. But I can't let Three Amigos, as amazing as a film as Galaxy Quest is, I love every second, super cool flick, but I'm going to go old school and give some love to the Three Amigos.
Right, thanks, Sam.
Wow.
Oh, Sam, you're a softie, Sam. You're a softie.
It's true. It's true.
Well, for my 2 cents, I remember going to see Three Amigos and what kind of a big deal it was to me when I was younger. I got to go with some family members that had come into town, and my mom and dad actually said, "Yeah, you can go see it." And I just remember the excitement and how much I love that film, and I still love it. These two films are probably on my top 50 list, no matter what. They're there. For me, though, Three Amigos really gets good when they start on their quest. Like the minute they leave the town after the first raid, when it starts with them singing on the prairie and everything. From then on, I just crack up. I love how Martin Short falls from the piñata. Well, the dummy falls from the piñata, but just the impact and how, he would literally land on his head and break his neck is the way it fell down. And it's just so abrupt. And I think it's hilarious. And, I really felt it got its legs more towards the second half of the film. But Galaxy Quest, I have to agree with you guys. Overall, it just nails it. And I wouldn't consider myself a Trekker or a Trekkie or whatever they're called, but I do enjoy the Star Trek films. I've watched quite a lot of the TV series, but I'm more of a movie fan. And I have to say I see a lot of myself in some of the characters that come up to get the autographs, and I love how Alan Rickman, I love how he just grabs the photo after the guy starts saying by Grabthar's hammer. He's like, no, don't. And he just grabs it. I just love how he grabs that photo to sign it. It just cracked me up. So the Mexican Village, I thought this looked really familiar because I grew up with my a father that loved Westerns. And so the Mexican Village in this movie in Three Amigos is the same one used in The Magnificent Seven. And it's also the same film that it spoofs. According to the Mexican-American film historian David Maciel, El Bandolero, El Pocho y la Raza, 1998, the film was considered demeaning by Mexican film authorities, so that its release was never authorized in Mexico. And for Galaxy Quest, you kind of took my little notes there, Tom, about the syncing. They actually had to redub a few lines so they could get the PG-13 rating. But the scene when Tim Allen is in the men's room overhearing how the cast of Galaxy Quest are nobodies and all the co-stars can't stand him mirrors an actual event in William Shatner's life. He discovered the exact same thing about himself when he attended a Star Trek convention. So there you go. Well, I am going to try and do math, so I will hand it over to you, gentlemen, to give your recommendations for the week not for the week, for the month. And we will start with Gabe.
Okay, I usually try, if I can, to stick with the theme and try to stick with a film that's fairly similar to what we watched. And I have to recommend one of my guilty pleasure movies, and I'm wondering how my fellow panelists are going to react to this, actually. But I'm going to recommend The Cable Guy.
Oh.
Because I think it's an underrated comedy, and I think it's one of Jim Carrey's best performances. I think he's just stellar in it, and I think it's well written, it's well directed, it's well shot, and it's funny and entertaining, but also kind of makes you think a little bit. And again, I think Jim Carrey is brilliant in it, and it's kind of one of my guilty pleasure movies. I know plenty of people who just don't like that movie, and frankly, I don't get it. It's like, how could you not like it? I mean, okay, it's a dark comedy. It's a little bit different, and it actually kind of makes you think a little bit. Maybe that's why people don't like it. I don't know, but yeah, if you haven't seen Cable Guy, I recommend you see it and give it kind of a chance.
All right, Tom.
All right. Who loves Sam Rockwell? Everybody loves Sam Rockwell, right? I've never found anybody that doesn't love Sam Rockwell. So my pick for this show is Sam Rockwell's first big leading role. His big breakout role is in the George Clooney classic Confessions of a Dangerous Mind.
Great movie.
It's a wonderful dualistic movie of a story of Chuck Barris, the guy that invented the dating game, and this his allegations that he was actually a secret agent for the CIA, special assassin on the side, which has never really ever been proven, but it's a fun story either way. And it's got Drew Barrymore, George Clooney, Julia Roberts, and Rutger Hauer. And like every pick, I'm sure I just won you over with Rutger Hauer. So I think Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, fantastic movie, very funny, very entertaining. Definitely check it out.
And great directing work by George Clooney, by the way, on that.
As always,
yeah,
the man is at the top of his game when he's behind the camera. So,
yeah.
All right, Sam.
Well, hey everybody! Sam had to step out and go to the bathroom.
Jimmy Stewart.
Jimmy Stewart, and I thought I'd give my pick. It's up around Easter time. And so a lot of people got rabbits on the mind, and some people would say I would in this movie where my friend Harvey is showed around town. I think you should watch it. It's a very good movie and perfect for the whole family. So I'm going to speak for Sam on this one. And hold on a second, Jimmy. Well, it's a great movie and a wonderful show. I know. God, Jimmy Stewart, everybody. All right, so he's taking my pick. Harvey's good. It's a good watch for everyone. if you could, just a shameless plug here. We're also in the middle of a Kickstarter campaign. So I would pick for you to go to that website and pledge money so that we can make a film with amazing filmmakers. But seriously, Harvey, good film. And that's my pick.
Thank you, Sam. Shawn, you're up.
Oh, I always hate following Sam in anything because he's always such a tough act to follow in his league of voices and stuff. You know, I'm gonna go against the grain here a little bit. I don't have a comedy to recommend, but I have a show that I happened to see on Netflix the other night. And it's been out for a little bit, but there's just something about it that was just really haunting to me. I've thought about it a lot over the last couple days. And actually, it stars Jennifer Lawrence, who's currently in the latest movie out here with the Hunger Games. And it's called Winter's Bone. It was released in 2010. Mm-hmm. And she basically plays this Ozark mountain girl that basically has to deal with a bunch of her family and other people living up in the hills and to track down her missing dad. And, you know, again, there's something very subtle about it. And there's a couple moments in there that and I'm not gonna explain it now, but there's a couple moments that were really kind of shocking, and just watching her, how she kind of handled it as her first movie out, I was really impressed. So I haven't seen Hunger Games yet. I don't know if it's good, bad, or otherwise. But it was just one of those movies that just happened to be on Netflix. I thought, we'll check it out. And I can't wait to watch it again. It was just, it just really resonated with me. So I'm just throwing that out there, something completely from left field. Winter's Bone.
All right. Thank you, Shawn.
Wasn't she nominated for an Oscar for her performance?
In that, I don't know. Yeah, actually, I hadn't heard of it before this. So
yeah, I think she was. I think she was nominated. Although I could be wrong. Tom would be the expert on that, I think.
Mm-hmm. Tom must have stepped away.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, he has no opinion.
No, I'm here. I've got terrible room noise, so I keep my mic turned down. Yes, she was nominated, as well as the wonderful John Hawkes, who's really awesome in everything he does too.
All right. Well, I'm going to go along with Shawn. I'm going to go against the grain here. I'm going to recommend the 2000 film Battle Royale, which for all you Hunger Game nuts out there, this was first. And quite honestly, it makes me not want to see the Hunger Games, just because I really, really liked this film when I saw it. And kind of like with Shawn, it kind of haunted me for a long time after viewing it. It was just so out there. And it's made in Japan. In the future, the Japanese government captures a class of 9th grade students and forces them to kill each other under the Revolutionary Battle Royale Act. I'm not going to try and say anyone's names because I will just obliterate them. And check it out. You should watch some of the trailers online and try and track it down. I know it was a little difficult a few years back to find in a DVD store, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if it's on Netflix. I haven't checked there lately, but yeah, check out Battle Royale. I highly recommend it. So before we get to who won the bout, we actually have some listener feedback, and it was from our guest judge from last month, Trevor, and he sent us something which it's dated April 2nd, but quite honestly, I don't know if this was an April Fool's joke or not, but I'm going to read you guys the story here, and you can decide for yourselves. Leprechaun reboot update. Upcoming film gets a title, star, and release date. So, yeah, they're going to remake Leprechaun. A couple of weeks ago, Lionsgate and WWE announced that they were planning to reboot the Leprechaun series, signing on for a 2-picture deal. And now we have just learned that the first movie, now called Leprechaun Origins, will be aiming for a March 2013 release, no doubt in the spirit of St. Paddy's Day. What's more, Bloody Disgusting reveals that the film has also cast its title character. And as it turns out, IGN's own Matt Fowler guessed exactly right. WWE wrestler Hornswoggle, I don't know who that is, will indeed be usurping the Leprechaun name from Warwick Davis. And it says here to stay tuned to IGN Movies for more info on Leprechaun origins. So, yeah, is this an April Fool's joke, or has anyone else heard about this?
I've got it.
It's got all the makings of an April Fool's joke.
Yes.
But I've got something. It's been posted on Wikipedia, and those guys over there are dicks. So if it was a joke, it wouldn't last very long. So
Dicks.
I mean, they're humorless dicks.
All right.
So,
well, then there you go.
by the way, I'm really sorry for just blowing the Cinesmack Wikipedia page off the internet. So
Oh,
Yeah, great.
no.
Great. Thanks.
Oh, great.
humorless dicks. Okay.
All right. Well, let me go ahead and poke the monkey, and we'll find out who won.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Your winner by decision is Galaxy Quest!
It was 14-2. Kind of, yeah. This was no contest. I thought it was going to be a lot closer than what it was. I wonder.
Who guessed? Like, what was the
Yeah, Tom.
our entry? Did
We
she
had
win?
one entry. No, she did not win. She picked Amigos 10-6. So
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
And I
I'm
could see that
sorry. No
before
winner.
we recorded. I thought it would be at least that close.
Well,
you know what? I thought it was going to be that close when I saw it come in yesterday, and then I watched both movies today, and I got to the credits of Three Amigos, and I'm like, this isn't even going to be close. It's going to be Galaxy Quest by a long shot.
Well, see, I've only been surprised by a few of the bouts we've had. Probably the biggest one was the Christmas bout that we did with the three-way fight. It just,
Yeah.
I don't know. This maybe no one here really appreciates Chevy Chase, myself included.
He's a dick.
Must own Wikipedia. So
Does he work for Wikipedia?
All right. Well, let's go ahead
Wikipedia.
and Tom, go ahead and tell the kind folks out there in podcast land where they can follow you, find you, keep up to date with you.
People can find me on just by searching my name, Tom Haggis, on Facebook and Twitter. Yeah, I'm usually on there, and follow me on Facebook. I always put my latest videos I've been working on the summer up. So,
All right.
got some fun projects coming up. Can't wait.
Sweet. Sam.
Well, you can also find me on Facebook. Just look under Sam Twami. On there, you'll be able to find a link to the project I was talking about earlier, which is called I Think My Mom's Trying to Kill Me. And that shoots in late April. So you can see our link to the Kickstarter and see a fun little video we shot. Find out what I'm doing with that project. And then the 48-hour film project will be back in Des Moines before you know it. And you can always find out information about that at 48hourfilm.com/Des Moines.
All right. Thank you, Sam. Gabe?
Yeah, wow, the 48 is coming up pretty fast, isn't it? It really will be here before we know it. You can find me on Facebook, Gabriel Rowold, Rowold. Yeah, like I've said in the past, I don't post a lot. I lurk a lot, but if you're interested in knowing what I'm not up to, you can find me on Facebook.
All right. Well, Shawn, thank you for joining us. I know I was really looking forward to it. Where can people follow you at, or find out more about you, or lurk on your Facebook page?
I have a non-existent web page, ShawnFitzgerald.com. That will have some stuff up soon. I'm kind of the late one to the party, working with Sam and getting some other things kind of lined up too. So I think we'll just leave that there, and hopefully I'll have more things to post here in the next coming months. So
Awesome.
Just getting going. But thanks for inviting me. I had a lot of fun. This was a real blast.
Good. I'm glad you had fun. Hopefully we've got a roster of people, and we're gonna plan on having you back at some point. Probably for the remakes. Yeah. So, well, you can follow Cinesmack on Facebook and on Twitter. You can also find our podcast on iTunes, which you probably already did, but just in case you're listening to us through some other means. We would appreciate it if you could leave us a review on iTunes or whatever podcasting service you use. You can contact us at cinesmack@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Just search Cinesmack. We will be starting we are continuing our Facebook contest for each show before they air. Tom, what was the name of the lovely lady that turned in her guess? I'd like to thank her.
I'm actually, I might mispronounce it. Lisa Haggis.
Oh, Tom. All right. Well, Lisa, thank you for trying.
We said Haggis or something.
Haggis.
It's so embarrassing. It's so embarrassing. It's like your mom, the only one standing up and clapping after the recital.
Well, get on there, folks. You can try and beat us at our own game. See if you can guess what we're going to pick for our next bout as far as the score is. You will get a chance to win a copy of either film, or are we just doing of the film that wins?
One of the movies. Just one of the movies.
Okay.
Depending on availability, it's all it is. So we're highly predictable people. Come on. It's not that tough.
That's true. We also want to remind you about Character Smack, which is a Cinesmack spinoff. We actually have a spinoff, folks. This coming month is going to be Han Solo versus Captain Mao, and I really look forward to that.
Who's going to be Han Solo, honestly?
Well, I'm actually in Han Solo's
If
corner
I was a guest this
one.
week, I'd be like, all right, Han Solo, are we done? I got some chicken in the fridge or something.
I don't know. Greedo could probably beat him since he shoots first.
It depends what version you watch, really.
Yes.
I don't know. I went back and watched the first one. I don't want to start a whole new thing here, but the way the original one was edited, I was kind of like, oh, wait a second. I don't really know who shot first based on that. I've been
It's
lied
totally
to.
him. Like they have on the Blu-ray, which I don't own any longer, but they show like the original like unclean version of that in full length. And yeah, Han's always going to shoot first. Oh, sorry to digress. Go Character Smack.
That's fine. That's fine. Next episode. Join us as we
limping across the finish line here.
As we welcome another special guest as we take on Lockout, which is going to be in theaters soon, versus Escape from New York. I'm actually really looking forward to this. For Shawn, Gabe, Sam, Tom, and myself, thanks for listening, and go catch a flick.
Please, Commander, you are our last hope. Galaxy Quest! Galaxy Quest! Galaxy... I didn't even say that right. Questo de Galaxio.
Oh, that's not right. No.
This has been a test of the Southsider Studios podcast system. This was only a test. If this were a true lack of entertainment, your head would explode. Go to iTunes and subscribe to our feed. Just search Southsider Studios.